Live from the 607, it is the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Why don't you join in the conversation with the hashtag ODPH? Here we go. And welcome to part 2 of our NFL preview here on the ODPH. I'm your host, Ken M., and joining me again is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And the one and only Coach Duffy.
Let's go. We're talking about the NFC, so let's go. I'm ready to go. I'm fired up.
Hashtag ODPH joining the conversation. Last episode, we talked all AFC, so now let's flip it to the NFC East. Pad, what you got?
Well, looking at the NFC East division, some team, Meta Philadelphia, I'd rather not mention, won the division, finished a 13-3 record. No, it was the Philadelphia Eagles. Finishing in second place was the Dallas Cowboys with a 9-7 record. Third place, the Washington Redskins with a 7-9 record. And running out the division, the New York Giants with a 3-13 record.
I can't hold him back from the microphone anymore.
That was painful to hear. That was so sad.
Coach, why don't you break it down for us?
All right, so obviously last year for the Giants, that was a forgotten year. Let's just pretend like that didn't happen. All right, McAdoo is gone. He can't even give press conference statement, or you can't even give statements to the press without stumbling over his words. The guy can't even get out of bed probably and put pants on one leg at a time.
Ooh,
so what you're trying to say is...
All I'm trying to say is that he needs to just pipe down. All right, so on to this year, though, all right? On to new things. So, obviously you talk about the class of the division. You still have to look at Philadelphia. They have a head coach in Peterson that knows what he's doing. He knows his X's and O's. He knows how to get the most out of his team with whoever he has in front of him. I mean, he's the first guy since Bill Parcells to take a backup quarterback, and Bill Belichick to take a backup quarterback to the Super Bowl and win. So that's hell of impressive to be able to do that. I mean, I know Nick Foles is no chump, but still at the end of the day, he was the backup and they still won the Super Bowl. So hats off to him. Congratulations, Philly. I need to go wash my mouth out with soap now. But
you're not the only one.
Yeah, again, they're the class of the division, so I can't not say that they won't win it again this year, unfortunately, as hard as that is to say. But they're my favorite right now. Then when you talk about second place, I'm going to look at the Giants. Yes, this might take me a minute. I love Saquon Barkley. I love what they did with him in the draft. I love the fact that they got him at 2. I love the fact that he's going to be a playmaker back there. He's been watching tape on Adrian Peterson, learning how to run behind a fullback. Shane Smith as your fullback, I don't necessarily know about, but they're going to run a power system that I think Saquon's going to be able to get open in. Signing Nate Soldier away from New England, although he is an older left tackle. When you talk about what you look for in a left tackle, he still knows how to do, what he needs to do as far as that side goes. So he's going to protect Eli a little bit more. Willie Hernandez as your left guard. He's an absolute beast. I know I love Quentin Nelson a lot. This guy I love he's probably, if I love my kids and I rank them, he's probably my second favorite kid. He's very, very good as far as a left guard. Center, I mean, I think they're throwing anybody in there right now, so we'll see. And then right tackle, you got Eric Flowers playing there. So, we'll see where that goes. I thought he's looked well in the preseason. A lot of people don't. I think the right tackle is probably the weakest position they have. I think that's probably the weakest spot that they have is the offensive line. Defensively, I think they're going to be great. I think they're going to bounce back really, really strong. Landon Collins is going to come back and have a Pro Bowl year. Mark my words, he will be in the NFL MVP discussion, if not Defensive Player of the Year. And then Odell Beckham. I mean, what can you say? Just signed a huge contract, 5 years.
95
million.
I mean, the boy better produce. I mean, at the end of the day, that man better get his catches. Coming back off of that serious leg injury, all hope's the best to him. I hope that he can produce. And Evan Ingram, with concussion protocol right now, has me a little worried. But, I still like what he can do as far as tight end goes. Then when I'm talking about the rest of the division, Dallas Cowboys, who is your wide receivers right now?
Yeah.
Who are you throwing the ball to?
Well, don't they got that, and I'm not saying this is like a slight, I genuinely can't remember the guy's name. Don't they have a Julian Edelman type guy?
Yeah, Beasley.
That's
Cole
it,
Beasley.
Beasley.
He's high energy. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's not a Pro Bowl wide receiver that you're throwing to.
No, and you can't exactly have Ezekiel Elliott run the ball 50 times.
No, and I mean, Dak Prescott is going to be running for his life back there. They should be thankful that they have such a good offensive line in Dallas, but defensively, too, that is a huge gap. I mean, Jalen Smith, another Notre Dame guy, he looks good in preseason. I saw some things on, their Instagram page that scared me. As being if I was an offensive player having to go against him. But the rest of the defense, though, the secondary does not scare me. So I don't see them having a great year, especially when you talk about a division that, will be better. And then Washington, gross. Poor Alex Smith. I like Alex Smith a lot. I think that this kid has done everything he can to show that he is a top talent quarterback, but he gets nothing but dookie done all the time from teams. And it's a shame because the guy has talent. So Philly, New York, Dallas, and Washington round out the bottom.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on Philly. Until they really start showing a chink in the armor or a wheel starts falling off, I don't think they're going to lose the division. The only blip on the radar is as we record this week, Alshon Jeffrey is missing 2 games, but that's 2 games. It's not exactly, and it's the start of the season.
Yeah, it's 2 games in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, you're not. Your season's not exactly over 2 weeks into the season. So Philly, I definitely think is going to win the division. I think I'm with you. The Giants are making a lot of improvements on the offensive side, and with everything else, I definitely think they're going to finish in second place in that division. Dallas definitely taking a step back, like you said. Who have they got on offense? Who have they got on offense other than Dak and Ezekiel? It's really who's going to step up and fulfill that role, and they're really doing nothing on the defensive side of the ball. And like you said with Washington, they're like a lot of teams in the AFC. You're not exactly improving or doing anything to make that team any better, so you're not exactly showing me anything that, hey, we're getting better.
JR's picks were the Eagles 11-5, Giants 9-7, Cowboys 8-8, and Redskins 4-12.
All right, Josh, thank you.
So I'm going to say this. My pick to win the NFC East is those New York Football Giants.
Man, you are wild.
I like
with Cleveland last episode, now the Giants to win the division. You are crazy.
I am saying this. I think that now, obviously, with McAdoo gone, they have a new head coach in place. They've made the proper draft and free agent signings that they needed to do. They now have a dynamic running back in Saquon Barkley. Now, is he going to translate the same from college to the pros? Remains to be seen. But on paper, it looks like the right move. And that's what they needed to do.
Yeah, the biggest thing is system, for him.
Yes. And they fixed their offensive line issues to a degree. They've definitely improved in that area. Evan Ingram, I think, is my sleeper pick for fantasy football. If he can just stay healthy, he is going to put up some points for you at the tight end position. And Odell just signed that big contract, so he's got to make up to justify it. He's got to make up some big plays. He's going to definitely help him win some games. So on paper, they should put up some points. Now, do I think they're going to run away with the division? No. I think they go 10-6, and I like the Eagles 9-7.
So when's the last time anyone in that division ever ran away with it?
Right, and that just goes to show you how that division is. I mean, they're going to grind out wins against each other. That every time Dallas faces New York on Sunday Night Football, because it seems like that game is always week 1 or 2.
Yep.
You can set
week
your
2
watch
this year.
Yeah, you can set your watch by it. It's going to be a primetime event no matter how good the teams are or how bad they are.
Now, real quick, though, to that Evan Ingram as your fantasy sleeper, I agree with you full-heartedly. Guys, I would seriously, if you can get him in like a 5th or 6th round, because he's not just a tight end. So when you draft him, he plays wide receiver a lot in that system. So he will spread it out, especially in red zone situations. He will be on the outside for those lob passes. So, I mean, if you can get him in a 5th or 6th round, you're getting value.
Absolutely. And I think he's very underrated. I mean, his blocking has always been an issue being a tight end. But like I said, he almost reminds me of like a shorter Jimmy Graham.
I mean, that would be a very fair comparison.
Yeah, and I think that he can put up some points. And I think in that system, they have enough weapons that Eli should make another good run. Obviously, the distractions from last year are gone.
Yep.
So it's kind of a clean slate, and they're almost want to say they're playing with house money. With Philly, I still think Philly's going to be good. And I'm just saying the Giants are running away with the division. No, I don't think so. But Philly, I mean, you don't know what you're going to get with Carson Wentz yet. There's still a lot of questions up in the air there. Folds, can he do the magic one more time? That remains to be seen.
Looked really bad against Cleveland that preseason
Right.
game.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a
Yeah.
preseason game, but he looked really bad.
We'll say it was
Right.
week 3 of preseason where
Yeah.
the starters are seeing the most time they'll see all summer.
Yeah, I mean, that's your script going into the year. So
Yeah, and granted, I'm not judging anything by preseason because I mean, how many times were the Browns undefeated for the past couple seasons preseason? Look what
True.
happened.
Yeah.
This is true.
So I'm just saying, when you win a Super Bowl, it's tough to rekindle that hunger and to really have that drive to win that one. Especially there was so much behind the team last year. I mean, they were great to watch, and I think they surprised a lot of teams, and especially Foles' play after Carson Wentz went down.
yeah, it was very Cinderella-esque.
Yeah. Can they do it again? I think they're going to contend. Don't get me wrong. I think the team is still as loaded as they were last year, but it just depends on how hungry they are to get back there. I think they're going to contend. And like I said, I just don't think they win the division. I think they go 9-7. I think they do get the wild card, but I don't think they win the division. As for the Cowboys, I mean, after Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott, who else is on that team, really? Beasley is a nice fire plug. I think they signed Allen Hurns as a wide receiver.
Yeah, but I mean,
But they're missing that dynamic, outside threat that they had with Des Bryant. And granted, I mean,
and they're missing Jason Witten.
Right.
they're just
They're missing the security blanket.
they're in a
Yep.
transition period. I mean, that's all you can really say about them is this: they're in a transition period. Their defense is going to play solid, but are they lights out? By no means.
No.
See, the tough thing for Dallas is obviously with Tony Romo when he retired and then Dak coming in as hot as he did, you had an old guard with Witten, with Dez, with that team that was there. So they had a team that was in place that could succeed, but they missed that window. And now they're stuck in a position where it's like they've got talent in certain positions, but they didn't fill those other spots up with other talent to be behind them, and they haven't been able to find anybody to fill those gaps. And the fact that you went out and you think Allen Hurns, as a Cowboy fan, is going to be able to fill fill Des Bryant's shoes, you are out of your mind if you think that is going to happen.
Yeah, there's just a lot of influx down there.
I would take Des Bryant dropping the ball 5 to 6 times a game over thinking that Allen Hurns is going to catch 1 to 2 touchdowns a game.
I mean, it's a very fair argument. You know what you get with Bryant, and like I say, was he the number one receiver that he was a few years ago? No. But it still was an upgrade of what your current receiving core looks like right now. So unless Dallas finds a diamond in the rough somewhere, I think they're going to struggle a little bit. And I think they wind up third in that division. I don't really have a game ranking, but I think they definitely wind up third no matter what. And the Redskins, there isn't a lot you can really say about them.
It's a hot mess.
Yeah.
Hot.
I mean, for Alex Smith, though, I think for how good he is, and like Coach elaborated too, he gets a lot dumped on him. And is it fair? No, I don't think so. I think Smith has done everything he can to be a team player and to be an all-pro and to get as much out of his teams that he can. So if anybody is going to do anything in Washington, it's going to be him. How far he goes remains to be seen because Washington just has a lot more stuff going on with it. Who knows? But if anybody can get them to, I'm not saying they're going to go 8-8 because I don't think they do, but I think to anywhere near 500, it's going to be Alex Smith.
Sure.
Yeah, if they win games, it's on him.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, absolutely.
Because he's that good. He's
Right.
just not that, rated that high, I guess, in some people's eyes. But I see him play, and I see him how he is in games. And he finds ways to win. So if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be him. Moving on to the NFC North.
Of course, looking at the division from last year, Skull Nation, Minnesota Vikings won the division with a 13-3 record. Detroit Lions finished second with a 9-7 record. Green Bay Packers finished third with a 7-9 record. Then the Chicago Bears rounded out the division with a 5-11 record.
Should I just give JR's pick now or wait till we're
Number
done?
one, Minnesota Vikings. After that, who cares?
Minnesota Vikings, 36-0, not lose the next 3 years. No, I'm kidding.
I would actually believe him to say that in all honesty.
I would say there would be a chance of that. No, for him, the Vikings, he's got 12-4, Packers 11-5, Lions 6-10, Bears 4-12. Coach, what's your thoughts on the division?
I mean, this is a division that Minnesota obviously is probably going to own for a long time. You go out and you make, the splash that you did signing, a great quarterback like Kirk Cousins. So, I mean, obviously they're going to be a team that's going to be around for a while. They're defensively, they are stout.
It keeps up other coordinators up at night with nightmares.
Yeah, and I mean, losing Schumer as your offensive coordinator, I don't think really is going to be that much of a big deal, especially with the fact that you have a new quarterback coming in anyway. So it's basically a wash there. I mean, Minnesota obviously favored to win. Green Bay, always a team that's good, not great. You know, I mean, that stat that everybody keeps talking about, the fact that they've had the two greatest quarterbacks in the last 25 years and only have 2 Super Bowl rings is pretty telling. So, yeah, they're going to finish second and they're going to do their thing, but, you know, we'll see. Detroit Lions is a team on the up. I mean, Matt Patricia, obviously, you know, coming from the Belichick tree there, so that's going to definitely be a room for improvement there. You know, I think he, as a defensive guy, you know, is definitely going to be an improvement there for the Detroit Lion team. Offensively, though, is he really going to be able to do the X's and O's? The difference between, you know, Belichick and the rest of his coaches that have all come, you know, from his tree is that Belichick knows offense and defense. He was a hell of a defensive coordinator with the Giants, but he was very smart offensively, and the systems that they ran have been his. Patricia, though, although he came from the offensive side, was really not ever an offensive position coach. He was always a defensive guy, so it will be telling to see what he can do with that offensive team. And then Chicago obviously is, well, there's Chicago. I mean,
there's hope.
Trubinsky, you know, he's there. We'll see what he can do. You know, they had that really good, strong running game last year. Let's see if they can build on that. And then defensively, I mean, that team's a mess defensively. So, you know, I don't think they'll really stop anybody. So I'm looking Minnesota, Green Bay, Detroit, and Chicago.
No, yeah, I'm agreeing with a lot of what you're saying here. Minnesota, when you throw in the money you did to Kirk Cousins and you re-sign Stephon Diggs, you're definitely investing for the future, and I definitely think Minnesota is going to be contending for, you know, if not the division win, they're going to be right there in second place for a good number of years. Definitely going to give the second place nod to the Green Bay Packers because having had Aaron Rodgers on my fantasy team for a number of years, you don't count out the Green Bay Packers in a game until that clock is showing all zeros. Plus, you look at Green Bay adding Jimmy Graham at tight end. That to me is just terrifying to think of with Aaron Rodgers and his stupid range that he can throw. And then you got Jimmy Graham, who's just a human monster.
Well, let's talk, like, what Jimmy Graham are we going to get?
That's also true.
Because obviously he was lost in the fold in Seattle with the offense that they ran because they don't really run a tight end friendly type of offense. But at the same time, he should be good enough to get open, and he wasn't. So
this is true, but I think him in that Green Bay system, you just look at the success that they've had at the receiving core, not just wide receivers, but tight ends and everything else they've had through the years. I think he's going to flourish in that system, and he's not going to put up like stupid record-breaking numbers, but he's going to have a bounce back year that's going to make you forget all about that last year in Seattle. Definitely going to think Detroit's going to take third place, possibly a slip from 9-7. It's, you know, Matt Patricia's first year. He's going to be great on the defensive side, offensive. Yeah, they've got Stafford, and yeah, they've got a somewhat suspect running game, but what have they really got outside of that? It remains to be seen. And like we said with Chicago, just, you know, kind of in the same boat as Washington. Haven't really done anything to improve. Might slide. It's just a hot mess.
All right, as I'm looking at it, and I know I said 36-0. I meant to say 48-0.
Okay.
Because on paper, the Vikings went out, they got their quarterback, albeit they paid a lot guaranteed for that quarterback. And their defense is arguably the best in the league. If Dalvin Cook can come back healthy, they have one of the best receiving pair in the league with Diggs and Thielen.
What a monster he was, Dalvin. My God.
They should win this division outright. And like I said, they should be good for the next 3 years, albeit though I think they are going to have some free agency issues after next season, if I'm not mistaken. But obviously, JR will, when he comes back on the show, will clear all that up. They're good. They should win this division outright. They should be the number 1 seed of the entire NFC, without question. Should be, remains to be seen. Packers, obviously, when you got Aaron Rodgers, you're going to do some damage. Jimmy Graham is my comeback player of the year, because I think he's going to flourish with Rodgers throwing to him. Because Russell Wilson, like I said, their offense is a little different in Seattle. But I think now with Aaron Rodgers, I mean, who else is on Rodgers' wide receiver core? Jordy Nelson's gone.
Randall Cobb.
Yeah, Cobb.
You have Cobb, but this will take some pressure off him. And I think Graham will just flourish underneath there.
Still don't have a great running game, though.
You don't have a great running game, and your line is good. Not great.
Not great.
But it's good to, you know, semi-good. Can they improve there enough to keep Rodgers in the game? Obviously, if he's on his feet, he's a threat to any team. Doesn't matter what your defense is. He's that good. But I do like the Packers coming in second. I'm actually going to go out on a limb and say the Bears come in third.
Oh, okay.
I think that they are on the rebound. They're going to be coming around. Am I saying they're going to contend for a playoff position this year? No. But I think Trubisky is definitely showing signs of improving. I mean, obviously in the second year, we'll see if there's a slump or not. I think he'll be okay. He still has Jordan Howard as his running back.
Yep.
He has Cohen, what they call him, the human pinball, because he just bounces around.
They had a rough break in the wide receiver core too. I mean, I know that they had a couple injuries late in the year that I think really kind of stunted Trubinsky's growth. So with the wide receivers coming back healthy, that should be huge.
Mm-hmm.
I think so too, and I think plus another sleeper we want to talk about is Trey Burton.
Yeah.
Their tight end. I think that they have enough on the offensive side of the ball, they'll contend. Defense, we got to see what they got. I don't know.
Definitely could be a scenario where they've got to put up points to keep up with the other team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to be blowing any teams out of the water, so to speak, because I think their defense is going to let them get back in. I just don't see anybody really on the defensive side of the ball that's really a shutdown or, really kind of a threat. You see, like we talk about Minnesota. I think if you compare those two defenses, there's a definite gap.
I'll say there's nobody on the defensive side evoking memories of Brian Urlacher.
Right. I think they're a young team and they're on the rebound, and I think they're going to be on the rise. This year they might surprise some people. I do think they could wind up in a third place finish. Maybe, depending on what happens with the Packers, they could wind up in second, but they're not taking that division. And the Lions, Stafford will wield a lot of wins for him. He just has that presence about him that, we were talking about with Cleveland with Landry. Stafford is the same thing in Detroit. He's always prepared to win.
Die hard for that city.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I kudos to him because I remember when he got drafted, he couldn't wait to get there. And there's other quarterbacks that didn't want to go there. So Stafford definitely is going to do everything he can for that team. Their offense is going to be good. We just got to see what their defense does. A lot of questions to be asked about that. But let us know what you think. Hashtag ODPH. We're going to come back, talk the rest of the NFC when we come back.
Hey, this is Johnny Moose from Excite Wrestling, and you're listening to the ODPH. I didn't mess it up. I thought I would. Right now, back to the guys.
Coming back for the next segment on this week's ODPH NFC preview show, because we're talking NFL football on the previous episode, and we're talking it definitely on this episode as well. So let's take a look at the NFC South.
Looking at the division from last year, the New Orleans Saints won the division with an 11-5 record. Carolina Panthers finished in second, also with an 11-5 record, so of course that would go to how they faced each other. Atlanta Falcons finished in third with a 10-6 record, and then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers finished in fourth with a 5-11 record.
Sangha Galore JR has the Panthers 12-4, Saints 11-5, Falcons 9-7, and the Bucs 3-13. Coach, your thoughts?
Man, Josh, he's been going out on the limb on some of these. So I like the Saints a lot. Defensively, I think they're going to be vastly improved. Obviously, Drew Brees had, another tremendous year now. And, I mean, when you talk about the running game that they have now it's not on just Drew Brees to produce.
Nope. No.
I mean, they are scary in the backfield. So, I mean, I love New Orleans to win that division. I don't think they have the defense to take them, far in the playoffs, but they have a division to win. They have a defense to win that division. Then you talk about the next, Atlanta, Carolina. It's kind of a toss-up.
It's a coin flip.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta's just been in this really weird hangover since the Super Bowl. I mean, it really messed them up. They need to get a sports psychiatrist there, and they need to be talked to.
They just need to bring in Ray Lewis, give one of his motivational speeches, and get them all fired up.
I don't know. They need something because that team has not been the same since that comeback in that Super Bowl. So I kind of like Carolina to edge them out a little bit. It might be a game or two difference,
right?
But it's not going to be anything. It might be 10-6, 9-7.
It could be the difference between just Carolina beating them one time.
Yeah, I mean that's all it's going to be. New Orleans is going to pull away, but Atlanta and Carolina are going to hang around each other like a 9-7, 8-8 situation. I give the nod to Carolina just because I think that they're mentally a little bit better right now, and not to mention who knows what's going on with Julio Jones right now.
Yeah,
that situation is a mess. And it is not a good one. This is like him being around Terrell Owens and everything that's going on there is just obviously a situation that has caused, a lot of controversy for that team internally. And it's a shame, too, because they honestly could have put it together one year and win the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tampa Bay, I mean, Jameis Winston suspended.
Yep.
Who's playing quarterback those first 2 games? I mean, you or I could be playing it.
I think it's Ryan Fitzpatrick, if I'm not mistaken.
Fitzmagic.
Yeah, Fitzmagic. He might end up winning the starting job right now. I mean, that team also is a team that's in flux right now. They need to get some sort of, grasp on what's going on. I look at them and I see them maybe winning 1 or 2 games and having the first pick in the draft next year.
So as painful it is to say, yeah. No, I mean, looking at the division, definitely think it's the New Orleans Saints to lose. Drew Brees has Drew Brees' arm fall off? No, they're still going to win. And then you look at their backfield. Their backfield is short up. They're just going to be straight fire this season. Definitely think the Carolina Panthers are going to come in second. They've got, like you said, they've got the fortitude to do it. They've proven themselves. I think they're going to contend. They won't beat New Orleans for that division, but man, it'll be close. Atlanta, I think they'll improve off of last year, but I definitely don't think they're gonna beat Carolina in that division. And then, like you said, Tampa Bay, definitely a team in flux. Got a few pieces there that they might have something down the road, but as for right now, probably doing worse than they did last year.
I'm looking at this division and I'm just trying to kind of sort it out because I think the Bucs are going to have a rough year. Do I think they're going to go 3-13 like JR said? No. But I think they are probably the team that's going to struggle the most in their division. So I think they wind up last place. If you want me to take a prediction about who's going to win the NFC South, I'm going to say the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm going to go out on a crazy limb because, I like doing predictions like this. I think if there's ever going to be a time that Matt Ryan and company get rid of the Super Bowl hangover, now is the time. If they don't do it now, you got to just, start over with that team and start, trading everybody left and right. I think that Ryan has enough talent on the offensive side of the ball. They should be putting up points left and right. It all just depends on how that defense reacts. But they have weapons on that side of the ball too.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense is nothing to sneeze at. So I do think they win this division. Albeit, though, I don't see them, winning by many games. This could be a coin flip between them and New Orleans. I do like Drew Brees. I do like their running game in New Orleans. And like Pat was saying too, unless Drew Brees' arm falls off, they're in every game.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of have a situation like Green Bay, except I think they have a better offensive line.
Yeah.
But their defense has improved very much so over the past year. I think they'll be able to contend in there. I could see this going back and forth between Atlanta. Like, that's how close I think they're going to play. Looking at Carolina, there's a new offensive coordinator, Norv Turner, in there. And just really who's around Cam Newton that can really stand out and be a true number one threat at the wide receiver position.
I mean, right now it's Christian McCaffrey.
Right. So is that enough to, match up firepower for firepower with New Orleans? I don't think so. Like I said, this could be very close. Like, I think all 3 of those teams I just mentioned are going to be right around each other.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the division from this past year's standings. The records are just bonkers once you get past the wins and losses. I mean, you look at in the division, New Orleans Saints, who won the darn thing, 4-2. Second place Carolina, 3-3. Atlanta Falcons, who finished third, 4-2. Conference, the Saints who won it finished 8-4, but then you look at the Atlanta Falcons, who were 9-3.
I think just the problem is with that division, like Carolina does not have the defense to beat New Orleans.
Yep.
That's where I'm coming from with that.
Yeah.
I think obviously Cam Newton is a tremendous talent, and I think Norv Turner, in the system that he runs, I don't think that Norv will deviate away from running him.
No.
So I think that's going to benefit, Cam a lot. I think he'll protect him a little bit more than in previous years because obviously Cam has taken some bumps. But I don't think weapon-wise, outside of Christian McCaffrey, they have anything that's really going to keep you up or worry you from a standpoint of a guy in the red zone who's going to score touchdowns. But just New Orleans from top to bottom looks like a team right now that can contend, and in Atlanta, I want them to pull it together because that's a tough break what happened in that Super Bowl. there's something going on in there internally, like I said, that's just not being talked about.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree. And that's why I said, I mean, this year is, if they're going to do it, because, I mean, all their star players are in their prime.
Yeah, I agree. It's a make it or break it year for them.
This is it. Their backs are against the wall, in my opinion. My unofficial ODPH opinion.
It's like because the number of years Drew Brees has left is far fewer than the number of years he has behind him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And if this is the time that they're going to shake off the Super Bowl hangover, it has to be now. I mean, it's been, 2 seasons removed now?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to let it haunt you, you just completely tear apart that team and rebuild.
Yeah.
You have to. Because if you can't shake that loss off, and granted, it's one of the worst losses in professional sports history.
Yeah.
I get it. I don't need to go rub it in anybody's face. But if you can't shake that off and contend with the talent you have, then you need to start over. So that's why I said, for me, I think it's Atlanta's time. I think Matt Ryan is going to find a way to put it together. Otherwise, you got to start moving people.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that statement. I would definitely say it's a make it or break it. Like, if they don't do it this year, then, I think they should start breaking up pieces here and start trying to rebuild, while Matt's still in his prime. Because I still think he can be an elite quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he's the problem necessarily.
No.
I think there's a lot of other outlier, situations. I mean, obviously with this contract dispute with Julio Jones, I mean, that'd be a situation where you could easily find, a dancing partner to trade him with, that you could land, pieces back. You look at a Randy Moss trade with Oakland when he went to New England. There's going to be a team that's going to pick up that bad seed. So if they can't produce, though, it's got to be, a complete rebuild.
Yeah, and I think with the now or never mentality, because especially if Julio Jones really wants out of Atlanta,
Right.
he needs to put up numbers. They got Calvin Ridley there to balance him out, too. And Sanu's there, I believe, as well as their third wide receiver.
Yeah.
They have weapons.
Yeah.
And Freeman running the ball, too. They have enough talent that they should be winning. So if this isn't going to be the year, because, Drew Brees and company, they're going to contend. Cam Newton and company, they still need to, I think, to kind of find their way. I mean, obviously, with a new offensive coordinator, it's going to change up the style a little bit. I think they're going to put up some points. But is their defense going to be enough to slow them down? Well, it remains to be seen. This is their time. If they're going to do it, it's now or never, in my opinion. Looking at the NFC West, Pat?
Looking at the division from last year, the Los Angeles Rams won the division with an 11-5 record. Seattle Seahawks finished second with a 9-7 record. The Arizona Cardinals in third with 8-8. And then the San Francisco 49ers finished with a 6-10 record.
All right, Sound Guy Galore's picks. San Francisco, 11-5.
Whoa.
The Rams, 10-6. Seattle, 7-9. And then the Cardinals, 2-14.
Holy moly. He's showing me the paper. He's not lying. He's not making it up. It reads Cardinals 2-14.
Yes. This is the Sound Guy
Whoa.
Galore JR.
Whoa.
I just want to stress that when we start hearing about this. So, that being said, Coach, what do you got for this division?
All right. I like this division a lot. I think this division could be a lot of fun, especially with Garoppolo in it now. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I love Los Angeles still. Sean McVay to me is probably my favorite coach in the NFL. That interview that he had on HBO Real Sports where he's literally recanting play by play, the last 2 minutes of a random Week 7 game. I mean, that's a guy that knows football. You talk about probably Belichick's the only other guy who could probably do that to the level that McAvey was. I mean, he was literally rehearsing script by script the play. So I love what Los Angeles has. I love the young core that they have. And I mean, obviously, they probably have the most talent in the division. I mean, you got Todd Gurley back there, running the football, and you ain't going to stop him. So
no,
you can only hope to contain him. So, and teams didn't do that last year. Then, I mean, my second place team, I actually liked where Sound Guy Galore was going. I liked where Royce was going. I actually have San Francisco finishing second. Garoppolo brings something to this team that is just an intangible thing. I think that the moxie that he was playing with, in that game, especially when he took over late against the Giants, was something that was, not really seen from the San Francisco team, dare I say, since a Steve Young or, thereafter. I mean, he brings something out, or Garcia, he brings something, this scrapper mentality, which it must be a New England thing, because I mean, where else would he have gotten that from? Because he's a scrappy guy. and they paid him. So
Yeah.
he better be a scrappy guy.
Yep.
So I like what Lynch is doing there, and I like Shanahan as a coach too. So I like what's going on. Seattle, in Arizona, I definitely think you're talking about the bottom of the division. I think that this Seattle team is probably hit their clock. I think that this is the final countdown for them, if you will, if I could use any more cliches.
About to hit midnight.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the final hour for this team. I don't really know what more they can do offensive line-wise. They've been a mess for the last 4 years. They have not put a line in front of Russell Wilson in so long, and they've let weapons go consistently. I mean, obviously they weren't using Jimmy Graham right, so that's on them. From a running back standpoint, running back by committee, and it's literally pick them and choose them, whoever's going in there. They got CJ Prosise there, who I like as a running back out of Notre Dame, but he's a good player, but he doesn't, he's just not enough what they need. Defensively, this team is old. Very, very old, and not getting younger.
And they've lost some pieces on that.
And they've lost a couple pieces there, so that doesn't help. And I mean, honestly, Pete Carroll might be time to go back to college here. I mean, I think his run might be. They might need a change of voice there. A change of scenery. And then Arizona, obviously, they're young right now. I mean, I know they got Sam Bradford to take over for Palmer, and they still got Larry Fitzgerald, and you still got David Johnson, but. Is that going to be enough to really, take a team to, the playoffs in this division that I think is pretty solid? No, I don't. So I really see them. I don't put them at 2-14, but I definitely don't see them winning anything more than 5 games.
Yeah. I definitely think that this is the Los Angeles Rams division to lose. I mean, you look at the offensive side of the ball. They've got Jared Goff. They've got Todd Gurley. They brought in Brandon Cooks. So you've got 2 big weapons right there. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball. This is probably the scariest thing I can think of. Your nose tackles in Ndamukong Suh.
Yep.
Which character issues and attitude and whatnot aside, still a scary guy to try and block.
Dudes can still play football.
Right. And then to his immediate right is Aaron Donald. I'm my deepest apologies to any offensive line coordinator trying to prepare for that. And then you look at the backfield and they added Aqib Talib. This defense is rather scary, and I think they genuinely can put on a show and really show you something. Definitely think the San Francisco 49ers with a full season of Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be something to see. I think that intangible you're talking about is that intangible to prove he can play.
That might be it, actually.
That he's not just a guy who holds the clipboard and holds Brady's proverbial cape for him as he walks on the field. That he is a guy who can play. That he's a guy who can win you games
and can throw more than a good fade route, which is why they drafted him.
Right. So I definitely think it's the San Francisco 49ers are going to finish second. Seattle, I definitely think is going to finish third. Like you said, Cinderella's clock is about to hit midnight here, and the carriage is about to turn back into a pumpkin. They've lost some stuff on the defensive side of the ball. Offensive, they've still got some stuff there, but it's not as stellar or as headline worthy as you might think. And then Arizona, like you said, they're young. They've got a couple of years, but as for right now, it's not going to be much.
Looking at this division, the Rams jump out as the clear favorite. That defense, like Pat mentioned, is just scary. Jared Goff has improved, albeit your wide receiving core has changed. Sammy Watkins is in Kansas City. Brandon Cooks is in L.A. That helps. Todd Gurley is still your running back. So you're going to put up some points, but honestly, you don't need to do that much when you have that defense, backing you up. So I think this is the Rams division to lose. Looking at San Francisco, they were a nice Cinderella story last year. Garoppolo came in. They won some games that, I think a lot of teams took them too lightly. John Lynch has done an amazing job as GM, in my opinion. He's built this team into contention, and they have some great role players to jump out at you, too. So it all really depends if Garoppolo had a Cinderella season or did the slipper, so to speak, break. I think they're going to be in the second place in that division. I think that they're going to come back to earth a little bit, but I think they're going to be definitely contending. I do like them just looking outside into the playoff picture. But I think Garoppolo is going to be the step in the right direction. And like I said, I think there might be like 1 or 2 players away from really making a deep run. Maybe a Le'Veon Bell next season if he doesn't resign in Pittsburgh. Maybe. Throwing that out there. I hope Le'Veon stays in Pittsburgh, by the way, but I could see him definitely going out west if that's the case. I think Arizona is going to wind up in third.
Okay.
I think that their defense is stout enough that they can hang in some games. And the only question you have is, okay, who's going to be playing quarterback? If it's Sam Bradford, is he the guy that's going to lead him over the hump? Because you still have David Johnson, who's coming back from a nasty wrist injury. So arguably the best running back in the league. I think a lot of people forgot because he was hurt last year. You still have Larry Fitzgerald, who, is in the twilight of his career, but he can still put up some numbers. And they did draft a lot of young receivers around him. They still have Jermaine Gresham as their tight end, rather. So they still have some guys on the offensive side of the ball that can put up some points. Arizona's biggest question mark has always been their offensive line. If they can protect their young quarterback in Josh Rosen when he gets in there, because I think it's only a matter of time, can Rosen produce enough with the weapons around him? I think he can, but I don't think he gets in there until late in the season. I think Bradford is going to play well enough that, barring any injury, because we know Bradford has had his history fair share of it, but I think he's going to play solid, and I think that maybe he gets about week 8 or 9, depending on when the bye week is, or after then, just depending on how the record is. I think if they're around the 4-4 range at that point, then they pull him, and I think they go with Rosen to see what they got. So that being said, though, I could see them making a run. I just don't think so because, like I said, we've talked about this already. They're very young. Seattle, on the other hand, I think is in the decline. And I think the Legion of Boom era is over. And it was a nice run while they had it. But I think that they got a lot of question marks at running back. I think that Russell Wilson is still an elite quarterback, but does he have the talent around him to get over the hump? They had Jimmy Graham, who didn't really pan out up there, so he's gone. Doug Baldwin is currently injured right now, but I think he should be back by week 1, if not right around that point. But between those two, that's your major playmakers. Is that enough to win the West? I don't think so.
Not with the way Los Angeles is built.
Exactly.
No.
I think that Seattle will be on the rebound, but they're still going to be tough to play in Seattle, no matter what. That crowd up there is arguably the best one in football.
Well, let's talk about a scenario here real quick. How, Padawan here mentioned the defensive line that Los Angeles has. You take that against Seattle's offensive line. Now, last year, mind you, they were putting defensive players onto the offensive line because of how hurt they were.
Yeah.
And that's because of the lack of depth that they had. So even when their starters were in, the offensive line wasn't that good. Russell Wilson will be running for his life when they meet this year in those games. It'll be scary.
The Rams will be smelling blood and coming for it.
It's literally going to be like blood in the water. It's going to be like sharks out there.
I think it's going to be a rough time in Seattle. I honestly do. I'm not rooting against them, but from what I'm seeing on paper, I think it's going to be a rough time in Seattle. So unless they pull some magic out of their hat and fix that offensive line, it's going to be a long season. But we gave you our predictions for the entire NFC, so let us know what you think. Hashtag ODPH. We're going to take a quick break and give you our Super Bowl predictions when we come back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
Coming back for our NFL NFC predictions here on the ODPH. And we gave you our division breakdown, so why don't we give you our playoff predictions, starting with the coach.
So my NFC playoff predictions going from 1 to 6 is going to be Minnesota, Los Angeles, Philly, the Saints, the Giants, and then sneaking in that 6th seed is going to be San Francisco 49ers.
Okay. I definitely think going from 1 to 6, it's going to be the LA Rams at number 1, Minnesota Vikings at number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles at number 3, and then the New Orleans Saints at number 4. And then looking at the 2 wild card spots, I'm going to go with the New York Football Giants and then the Carolina Panthers.
Like we said in a previous episode, Sangai Galore JR did not give his playoff picks, but we're just going to read off by the records he wrote. So first seed overall, no shocker here, the Minnesota Vikings, followed by the Carolina Panthers.
What?
Minnesota Vikings at 89-0.
Yes. The Carolina Panthers at 2, 49ers at 3, the Eagles at 4, followed by the Saints and the Packers.
Okay.
So going by mine, I think number 1 overall would be the Minnesota Vikings. I do think the Giants get there. I think the Rams get there at 3, and the 4th seed would be the Falcons, followed by the Eagles, and then followed by the New Orleans Saints.
Okay.
I think the Packers are going to be outside looking in.
But it'll be real close.
It's going to be close. It's going to be very close. So that being said, who do you think gets to the big dance, and who do you think wins the whole thing, starting with the coach?
All right, so I'm going to go with, again, Minnesota falling short in the NFC Championship game. I'm sorry. They just don't pull out the big one. Los Angeles comes in and dominates. So I've got New England and the Los Angeles Rams playing in the Super Bowl. I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Rams.
Ooh, okay.
My man crush on McAfee is just so high that I think that this is time for a new guard, and I think that what they can do defensively can cause New England to slip up a little bit. And, I just don't know if New England has the weapons that can make up for how stout this defense is. And not to say that New England's not good offensively, but I mean, outside of Gronk, and if he can stay healthy, that team, if they lose that weapon in Gronk, lose a lot. And, I mean, you just can't argue with what he does. So, I mean, not to say that he's going to get hurt, but I just think Los Angeles can outweigh what New England can do.
I definitely agree with you on the choices for the teams in the Super Bowl. Definitely think the Rams are going to get there from the NFC, and it's going to be them against the Patriots in the Super Bowl. However, I think it's going to be the Patriots who win it simply because they have faced a stout defense in the past, and they did beat them in the Seattle Seahawks. I think and plus the thing with New England is, okay, they've lost Gronk a couple of times over the course of the years, but it's always been they've changed the game plan on the fly. Guys have stepped up. I think they might take some punches early on in the Super Bowl against the Rams, but I think they'll definitely make some adjustments and come back and win the whole thing.
Going for Sangai Galore JR's picks, he has the Steelers versus the Vikings, and shocker to no one, he has Minnesota winning the whole thing.
Like 189-0.
Yeah, I'm not even going to read the score out here.
Yeah, it's not even do that.
It's not even close. But for me, I said last episode it was going to be the Los Angeles should be San Diego Chargers against. I'm looking at the NFC, and I think one team stands out. And I got to ride with the Sangai Galore JR. I think the Vikings get to the big dance.
Okay.
I think that Kirk Cousins is enough to get him over the hump and to get him to the dance. But unfortunately, their glass slipper falls off somehow on the way to the dance because I am taking the Los Angeles Chargers to win the whole thing.
Oh, my.
So it's going to be a good time for Los Angeles for if one of us are right.
One way or another, to everybody, all the listeners out in California, what do you think about that? I think it's Phillip Rivers' time. I think the defense is there and they're ready to go. I mean, I tell you what, Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram are the two guys to look for on the Chargers to lead them through. And Melvin Gordon and Phillip Rivers and company, I think, are the ones to get them over the hump. I think that this is their time. They're going to do it. Minnesota is going to make a good run, and it's going to be a very close game. I'll even give you a 27-24 prediction.
Ooh, okay.
So we'll go with that.
Sure.
And I definitely want to see the powder blue jerseys, too,
Oh,
of the
my
Chargers
God. Yes.
in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
I need to see this.
I'm making it a requirement if they get there.
Yes. But that is my prediction because I think the Chargers, if you think about last season, too, they were shy of the playoffs by 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how they started 0-2?
Yep.
Missed it by bad field goal kicks.
Mm-hmm.
So if they don't have that problem, how far do they run last season?
This is true.
So there is that X factor in there.
Mm-hmm.
This year, I don't think there's any question. I think the Chargers are bringing the title back home to Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
But let us know what you think. Hashtag ODPH. But before we stop talking football on the show, we got to talk some fantasy football.
Oh, boy.
Now, it is a big time of year. I think this past Sunday as we're recording was National Fantasy Football Day or National Draft Day for your fantasy football leagues.
Yep.
Is a big time of year. If you're a novice fan or you're a hardcore fan like we are, is a great thing to join a league, because not only do you find yourself watching more games and getting more involved, but you have a deeper investment in the league. Because I will tell you what, before I did, if you weren't on the Buffalo Bills, I wasn't paying attention to you.
This is true.
And now, trust me, I can read off a lot more teams and follow more stories with it. It kind of benefits your fandom, I think, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, I'm going to go around and ask, what is one sleeper pick that you have to recommend to our listeners, starting with the coach?
All right, so unfortunately, I'm going to have to give you two. One is going to probably be a bit of a surprise. The other one, maybe not. I'm going to go Cole Beasley out of Dallas. All right, I know that we kind of crushed them before from a wide receiver standpoint. But, I mean, when you talk about, if you're in a PPR league, somebody's got to catch the ball there. And with the way that they run him, similar to how, New England runs Julian Edelman with those, underneath routes, those wheel routes, the 5-yard outs, he's going to get open, so he's going to be catching the ball. So if you're in a PPR league, look out for him. The other one I'm going to give you is out of Green Bay, Equanius St. Brown out of the University of Notre Dame. He might not be there early in the year, so this is not like a pick to pick up right now. But if this kid is invested in football, he is 6'5", he is fast, and he can get open over the middle, and not to mention the fact that he can jump out of the building. So when you talk about a red zone threat, Equanius St. Brown and Aaron Rodgers are going to get along famously, and they've already done it in the preseason. So look out for him later on in the year. Not talking like week 3, week 4. I'm talking like, week 6, week 7, week 8, week 9. When those guys start getting hurt, he's going to be the name to look out for.
Pat?
I think one name you definitely got to take a look at is Chris Hogan of the New England Patriots. Of course, you've got Julian Edelman missing the first 4 games due to suspension. So they're going to need somebody else to really step up and fill that role that Edelman plays. Of course, you've got Rob Gronkowski there, going to do Gronk things, spike the football, just be a monster on offense. But it's really who you got in behind him. You got Malcolm Mitchell behind him, Kenny Britt, as the aforementioned Chris Hogan, Philip Dorsett. So I really think it's going to be, Chris Hogan's time to shine, especially if you're in a PPR league. There's nobody really on that team who is a deep threat, who is a just run streaks and just catch a ball. It's going to be a lot of, dunk and drop passes, nothing really long, couple of short passes. So if you're in a PPR league, definitely pick him up.
Since JR is not here, we're going to just make a pick for him, and I'm going to say Dalvin Cook from the Minnesota Vikings. Now,
probably a safe bet.
It's a safe bet, but he's coming back from injury, so he might fly underneath some people's radars. So I think it would be a safer pick for him, and I know JR would definitely back that up because Cook is on pace to have a monster year, especially with Kirk Cousins as his quarterback. So they're going to definitely be putting up some points there. For me, I'm going to go to the Cleveland side of the ball because I think the Browns are going to be the biggest sleeper team of all this season, but nobody more important than Nick Chubb from Georgia, the running back they drafted in the second round.
This is true.
I think that the Browns are going to be doing a running back by committee, but I think ultimately Chubb winds up with the job. So he's definitely somebody you can get in the mid-rounds. I think he'll definitely help your fantasy team out, especially when you start going into the playoff rounds of the late weeks, because usually by that time starters are starting to sit. The Browns will still be fighting for contention. In my opinion, I don't think they're going to run away with the division by any means. So you definitely want to stock up on a team that's going to be fighting for a spot, and I think there would be no other running back better to take than Chubb. But let us know what you think. Hashtag ODPH. We've talked nothing but football this episode. We're going to come back and round those bases really quick. You're listening to the ODPH.
Hi, this is Mike C. from I Am Horror. You're listening to the ODPH, the most killer podcast on the planet.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH NFL Preview Show. Pad, we're going to round those bases really quick. What you got for us?
Well, quick little local minute first. It is the final week, going into the final week of the season for minor league baseball, so that means Rumble Pony season is almost over. Fear not, folks. They do have one more homestand in them before the season wraps up, and it is the end of the season homestand. They've got 4 games against the Portland Sea Dogs. Starting on the 31st of August with a 7:05 game time. They play through Saturday the 1st, Sunday the 2nd, and Monday the 3rd. Game times as is 6:05, 6:35, and 1:05 respectively. For more information, bingrp.com.
And now, speaking of Nice Egg Stadium, Coach Duffy, you got something you want to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So Saturday morning before that that Rumble Pony game, I will be taking place. We're playing in the Softball for Hope, the first annual charity game that's going to be played there. Softball for Hope, spinoff of Hockey for Hope, is owned and operated by the Constance Foundation. It's Softball for Hope's first annual charity game. It'll be played, like I mentioned, Saturday morning at Nice Egg Stadium at 11 a.m. It's free admission for everybody who wants to come out and watch. The main purpose of this organization is to raise money and help alleviate the financial burden associated with cancer. I mean, I've seen the Hockey for Hope 2 years now. It's a wonderful charity. They do a great job. The game is a ton of fun. You can check out their website, www.constancefoundation.org, www.softballforhope.com, www.hockeyforhope.com. And speaking of WW, I would be walking out to Glorious by Bobby Roode. I couldn't think of a better song for myself for that.
Well done. Well done.
It's a good cause, so if you can definitely get on and support it, go do it. Coach will have the links up on their Facebook page, too.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so quickly before we get into some more football, Pat, what you got for us?
Well, I think we'd be remiss. I know we talked a lot on NFL, but there was a little bit of big sports news in general this week. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention it. Spurs legend Manu Ginobili announced that he is retiring from the NBA. Of course, the two-time All-Star, two-time All-NBA, 2007, 2008 Sixth Man of the Year, four-time champ, 2002, 2003 All-Rookie. Career Spur, heck of a career, surefire Hall of Famer,
creator of the Eurostep,
Add
that in there.
Bat killer extraordinaire.
Yeah.
So congratulations on a stellar career. Enjoy retirement, and can't wait till you get into the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, Manu, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan. I mean, you want to talk about the San Antonio Spurs? Those three guys just come right to mind.
It's the end of an era.
Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird time, but we wish him well in his future endeavors. So before we close out this week's ODPH, we are going to be talking about the Locks and Leaps Invitational.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if you listen to our show, and we do appreciate all our listeners out there that've been with us since day one, you know about the Locks and Leaps segment, where we each take one game that's a lock and one that is a leap, a surefire underdog, and we see where we rank it this season. Well, we decided to have a little fun with you, the fans. For those that have been involved with the show, we're going to kind of just do a variation of it, if you will. We're going to switch it up a little bit this year. So for our lock, it has to be a team that is favored. And for our leap, it is a team that is an underdog. That for every one that you get right via the point spread, you'll get a point. At the end of the season, we're going to do something with Frederick Theodore from Thirsty Threads, Inc. about doing a Locks and Leap Invitational t-shirt to the winner. So we decided to open this up to just a core group of our friends, so thus we're calling it the Locks and Leaps Invitational. So obviously the first four in are the panel.
Yep.
Ken M., Sound Guy Galore JR, Padawan J, and Coach Duffy. So we've decided to expand this to a couple friends of the show as well. The first entrant into the Locks and Leaps Invitational is the Gladius Fights 205 light heavyweight champion, the King of Lisle, Luke Vizengard. From the Wrestling Recap Show, Kevin Molson is in the field. From our favorite band from Austin, Texas, Fair City Fire, Brian Wolf and Clint Manning are in the field. From the Say It Loud podcast, Matt Jones is in the field. Now, Johnny Moose from Excite Wrestling is not a sports guy, but he has mentioned that he wants to nominate somebody from the 607 Strong Academy to participate in this. So when John lets us know, we're going to definitely let you know. Ryan Bombard from Ryan Bombard Entertainment is in the field. And now I'm going to pass it to the coach and Padawan J to nominate somebody else for the Invitational.
Andrew Adams, key contributor on the Facebook page, key contributor to my text messages. You have been selected.
If we're talking football and we're making guesses and everything, there's only one person I can think of. Nostradamus.
The dog is now entered into the field, Edwin Fortunato. To close out the field from the Wrestling Recap Show, Vinny is in the field. And last but certainly not least, the one and only Big Fed is in the field. That is our list. We're going to put this on Facebook. If they have accepted the invitation to participate in this year's Locks and Leaps Invitational, they need to declare it on the Facebook post when we make it after the show airs. That's all we have for this week. So for Coach Duffy,
I feel like I exercised some demons getting this stuff off my chest, guys. It feels good to come out of hibernation.
Absolutely. For Padawan J.
Go Patriots.
For Sound Guy Galore JR, who is yelling Skull somewhere in
Somewhere
the
He's
right
been yelling
now.
Skull for like 9
keeping
months.
his poor baby awake right now, screaming Skull Nation.
Absolutely, and expect to hear him back on the show in September when he's back from paternity leave. I am your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. We'll see you next time.